The Chicago Bears have lacked some excitement recently. In the past 21 seasons, they've made the playoffs in only 5 occasions while finishing with a record above 500 just 6 times. In other words, they stink. Sure, their Super Bowl appearance in 2006 made for a season of entertainment for the Bears faithful, but in recent history, the second oldest NFL franchise has been nothing but a pain in the behind to their fandom. While there's a lot to be said of what the organization could or should have done in the past to make the on-field entertainment more, well, entertaining, I'm here to talk about another headache Chicagoans experience: their stadium dilemma. Will they stay? Move to Arlington Heights? Leave the city entirely? Let me dive deeper into this complicated relationship between the team, city, and stadium. Eyesore on the lakeshore? Mistake on the lake? Either one of these names currently epitomizes Soldier Field, the NFL's oldest stadium. Situated next to Lake Michigan, the stadium was built in 1924 as an all-purpose arena under the name Grant Park Municipal Stadium. It was renamed to Soldier Field a year later in dedication to the American soldiers who died in combat during World War I. The Bears wouldn't move into the arena until 50 years after its construction, but in the meantime, Soldier Field hosted a variety of events like local football games, religious gatherings, and visits from high-profile public figures. Its famous U-shaped seating configuration could fit over 74,000 spectators, with another 30,000 more added with temporary bleachers. No matter the event, crowds above 100,000 was commonplace at the Chicago Arena during the golden age of sports in the 1920s. Before playing at Soldier Field, the Bears held their games at Wrigley Field, a venue shared with the Chicago Cubs, one of the city's baseball teams. They inevitably were forced to move out after the AFL and NFL merger, since the stadium didn't meet capacity requirements. It turns out, having an ivy-covered wall right next to the end zone wasn't ideal for a professional football team, so the Bears packed their bags and moved south to Soldier Field, where they would continue to play to this day. Keep in mind, Soldier Field wasn't originally designed for NFL football games. After all, it was built nearly 100 years ago. This led to multiple tweaks and adjustments to accommodate the Bears faithful while adhering to NFL stadium guidelines. First and foremost, the stadium's layout when the Bears moved in didn't have that bold design that we're used to seeing in practically every single stadium we know today. Instead, it took on the shape of a U, meaning its length stretched further than that of an NFL football field, which meant temporary seating was needed to close off the north end. By 1978, the Bears and the Chicago Park District agreed to a 20-year lease with the promise of renovations. These renovations included replacing plank seating with individual seats and adding more skyboxes, which increased its capacity. By 1994, Soldier Field would build a permanent grandstand in the north end. However, this would bring down the capacity from almost 67,000 to under 56,000. Meanwhile, the stadium was designated a National Historic Landmark by the US government due to its rich history and presence in the heart of Chicago's downtown core. Renovation after renovation, Soldier Field developed itself as a proper host for NFL games, until it bit off more than it could chew. In 2000, the Chicago Park District, along with the Bears, announced it would perform a significant renovation to Soldier Field. This included demolishing the majority of the stadium with the exception to the exterior in order to preserve its neoclassical facade. The big plan was to modernize the stadium as well as the park space around it so it can be the hub of events in and around the city. As good as it may have sounded at the time, the execution came with some drawbacks. First of all, when the renovations finished in 2003, the capacity shrunk to 61,500 seats, making it the smallest stadium in the NFL. Second of all, the combination of the modern interior bowl inside its historic exterior looked unconventional to those who grew fond of Soldier Field's classic architecture. The design received mixed reviews, but the backlash was strong, referring to the aesthetic as if a UFO crash-landed on an ancient ruin. It's hard to disagree with that one. The new design disappointed the public so much that it was delisted as a National Historic Landmark in a unanimous decision in order to keep the integrity of the program. There were talks of further renovations in the early 2010s so the Super Bowl could come to Soldier Field, but that plan was a mess as it would only increase the capacity by 5,000, which still wouldn't meet the 70,000 seat threshold in order to host the event. So where do the Bears go from here? They play in a small stadium with an abysmal design that restricts the organization's ability to keep up with modern sports complexes like SoFi Stadium. The heart wants to stay in an iconic location while the brain knows it can have something better elsewhere. Enter Arlington Heights. This little municipality northwest from Chicago is subject to a lot of discourse around a potential location for a new stadium. In fact, the team has always flirted with the area since they moved from Wrigley to Soldier Field before settling for a prime location by the lake. The current plan has gone as far as the Bears bidding to purchase the Arlington International Racecourse from Churchill Downs, and the sale is expected to go through at any time, which could be a massive step forward towards the organization finally owning their own stadium. But the city of Chicago has tried to fight the move, with its mayor highlighting a proposal for more seismic renovations to Soldier Field in a video tour in order to sway the Bears into staying. Still, with the purchase of a new site to host their future matches, this proposal appears to be a Hail Mary from the city. If there's one thing that's evident in sports, it's that you can't beat Father Time. This not only applies to athletes, but stadiums too. Old infrastructure needs costly renovations, but eventually there's always something else that's a little bit shinier to catch the eye. Arlington Park may not have the historical value that Soldier Field brings, and it won't give the fans the opportunity to visit downtown Chicago, but the potential stadium will provide up-to-date facilities, competitive capacity, and a chance for the Bears to have control over their own home. After all, its purpose would be built for football, and Soldier Field lacked that intention from the get-go. Perhaps that's why they could never get things right for the Bears once they moved in 50 years ago. Who knows when this constant tug-of-war ends? For years, Soldier Field has had the last laugh, but all signs are pointing northwest to begin a new era.